Sorry, I'm going to focus my mic a bit. I am back from vacation. It's been about 2.5 weeks, and yeah, it was a good trip. I'll fill more in as we go. Um, I know that Eamon wanted to be here for that. He sent me some good articles to look at today. Some gaming news. I've been out of the loop for 2.5 weeks, and lots happened. So I want to make sure that I capture everything. Today's stream might be a little choppy in that everyone's jet lagged, including my kids. So they're up right now. So if I have to hit the BRB button a few times in case they decide to walk in or something like that. So that will happen. So just bear with me here. uh, anyway, hang on. Let me adjust my screen here a bit so I can see what's going on. All right. Yeah, so today I just thought Eamon sent me some good gaming clips of gaming news that happened over the past 2.5 weeks. I thought it'd be good to go over. Might play some games, might not. My kids bought some Italian Pokemon cards, so I hopped onto my long lost TCG Pokemon Live account and put the codes in to get them. So I might pop around with that, but just might be in and out. So the natives here are restless right now because everybody's up super early. We'll see how they go throughout the day. I want to try to give the kids some break from the screen time, but ultimately we're gonna give them some screen time today. I was in Italy the past 2.5 weeks for a sort of like a family reunion type thing. My family from Boston flew over to Italy. My mom for her 70th birthday rented a big place, and we all kind of stayed there and toured around Florence, and I got to see some of the Amalfi Coast, and it was really a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff. I'll pepper in some personal revelations, philosophical thoughts here and there as we go, and I think it'll kind of relate. Definitely want to play Assassin's Creed 2 now because that takes place in Florence. Um, but it was hard with 3 kids under the age of 6. So you have a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and man, it's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah, thought that we'd catch up some gaming news today. I'll share more about the trip once Eamon arrives. I'm sure he'll pop on in. Nexanoran TV chiming in from Twitch. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. But yeah, let's catch up on some gaming news here. I think the big one of the week was that Sony announced that it was canceling physical games. I'm pretty sure it's complete. They just decided no more physical games. And it's been stuff that everybody's been talking about. I just went to my own Twitch account. Sorry, not Twitch. X account, Twitter, Twix, whatever you want to call it, and typed in Sony. And I follow Ryan the Bouncer. Ryan the Bouncer, I feel like he's good to follow because he posts general gaming questions, but also some gaming questions about that do relate to culture stuff, and think what you want about him. He plays the Twitter game well, and I like to follow him because he does have some decent reach. Almost 100,000 followers, so you can get a kind of a good idea of different things he thinks about, and I think he's got a good spread on the whole like culture war stuff in the sense of a lot of people follow him, and he himself is, I don't know, he goes back and forth with regards to like, it's hard to pin him down on what he actually thinks about certain things, which is totally fine. So good on him. But he does share current gaming news stuff and asks questions about it. But yeah, so apparently the report was that PlayStation is apparently blindsided and not told its publishers and business partners, and even branches in other markets. So this is like tangentially related to the whole no physical gaming thing, and they didn't tell anyone, and it's creating a problem. Unfortunately, I think that this is the way things are going. I think the majority of games now, the vast majority of games now, are going to be just, digital. It's the way of things. I think that physical gaming will always be around. I remember my brother Tim, who frequents on this channel a lot. He talks about how when he goes to music conventions, that bands are still publishing and creating their music on old cassettes, like the old ones, cassettes. If you know what those are, you're my age. It's before CDs. um, so yeah, he sees bands still do that. So it'll be more of a novelty type thing, and more of a just for collectors, I think. But yeah, I think this is the way it's gonna go, and it's kind of sad because of some other stories that we'll get to. But I think it's impossible to stop this, and I think Kojima actually. Hang on, let me find it. Um, Kojima actually had a good, well, not good, but just a take on it, on the whole physical games thing, non-physical physical games thing. Let's see. Oh, was it IGN? Let's see. I'm searching on another page here. Let's see. He's got, I mean, Kojima's interesting because he primarily gets his takes from his inspiration for games from excuse me, from movies and rather than games, and that's pretty evident in his games. But shoot, something's wrong with my primary monitor. I don't know why this is happening. Let's see. Kojima digital physical media. But he seems to have the basics of the basics of game design mastered. So he's one of those, like, I feel like Kojima is one of those exceptions to the rule where I would say it's a bad to start game development from the position of like, I'm going to create a movie and then you create a game. I think he is one of the few people out there who's been in the business so long that he kind of knows what he's doing when it comes to creating a game that's both fun and engaging, but also a movie in a sense. Whereas I feel like most developers, if your process is starting from the movie aspect and then making a game out of that, I think that's backwards. Like Nintendo is big on, we create a game that is fun, and then we just go from there, which is, that's what they stated when they talked about Tears of the Kingdom, and everybody was upset about the lore. It's like, to them the lore is secondary, and that's kind of how it should be. I think they should pay more attention to it, but Nintendo's got it right when it comes to, it's all about the gameplay first, and then everything should follow after that. And so Kojima, again, I think is kind of backwards with his inspiration, but again, I think he's an outlier. Okay, Hideo Kojima says the future of owning games could be frightening without physical discs. He's worried that the industry could shift towards streaming, where players no longer own games and could lose access to purchases. Yeah, I find it really sad. Again, these are just headlines. Sorry, I'm not going to dive into each one. But yeah, that's something that I've expressed as well, and many others have expressed as well, that this is this current state of things, and you could lose access to your gaming library. It's something. It's one of those things where even physical media deteriorates over time. So all the N64 games I have sitting in a trunk back there, eventually they will deteriorate. Um, but I think a skilled technician, skilled someone who's knows how to repair things could potentially bring them back to life. Uh, but the physical stuff is yours. It's you can hold on to it. You won't lose access of it by a change of a code or something like that. But even physical media these days, they could hypothetically, if you get a uh, if you get a physical game disc and stick it in your PS5, it doesn't necessarily mean it's yours. It just means you have an access key in a physical way. So this is where it's going. I totally agree 100% with Kojima that it's going to be all streaming service all the time from now on. Well, not from now on, but eventually. And yeah, eventually all RAM, I think. I'll take that further and say all RAM, all storage space. Eventually you'll just have like a machine that has very little RAM and very little physical storage space, and it'll all be remote. Everything will be on the cloud. Everything will be streamed, and your access to it will be kind of like subscription bundles. How much RAM can you access? How much storage can you access? Will all determine on what tier you subscribe to. So that'll be fun. That's why I'm keeping my trusty modded Nintendo new 3DS. I was playing some Resident Evil Revelations on this thing, along with a huge gaming library. Modders are doing some of the emulation. Some of the emulation stuff is doing God's work for preserving video games, but I draw a line when it comes to current generation systems. But I've talked about that. We can discuss that later. All right, so let's see. Eamon brought up some stuff here. So if you're looking for news to cover, here's a good one. So I don't know if I have this set up properly yet. So I'm gonna just give me a second. Let me see here. Will this play? Let me check the audio. I believe I'm capturing desktop audio. Let me check this out.
Oh wow, they were preparing. PlayStation updated its terms of service in April 2026, and this is especially about European version. In section 21 it says, if you have not used your account for at least 36 months, we may take steps to close it. In that case, we will contact you via the email address registered to your account and give you 6 months to either log into your account or contact us and tell us to keep your account open. And then it says, after your account is closed, you will not be able to access the PlayStation online services or use the digital products purchased with that.
Let me restart this because I was worried about the audio coming in, but it is coming in, so. All right, let's see.
Oh wow, they were preparing. PlayStation updated its terms of service in April 2026, and this is especially about European version. In section 21 it says, if you have not used your account for at least 36 months, we may take steps to close it. In that case, we will contact you via the email address registered to your account and give you 6 months to either log into your account or contact us and tell us to keep your account open. And then it says, after your account is closed, you will not be able to access the PlayStation online services or use the digital products purchased with that account. Account closure is irreversible. Absolute madness. And a lot of people say if you don't touch your account in 3 years, you don't actually need it. But that's not the point. A lot of companies...
That's a good point. I kind of feel like a lot of people would bring that up. Well, if you haven't touched it in 3 years, you don't need it. That's not the point. The point is, you paid money for this thing at a time when everyone agreed it was, you own it. If you pay money for something, you quote unquote own it. A lot of these, the whole idea of like, what is it Ubisoft? I can't remember if it was Ubisoft or not. What Ubisoft said about like players need to get used to the fact that that games they pay for, they don't actually own. that happened way into this whole digital gaming thing. For a long, long time, I think in general understanding, you pay money for something, you get a service in return. You actually own something. And because games were both physical and digital and still are, there's this idea that, okay, I own the key to this thing. I can always access it. And so by switching, it's almost like they are changing the rules. They're changing the rules mid-play. It'd be like if Nintendo was suddenly like, all those physical games that you own, basically you don't actually own them anymore. They're our property. We're gonna cut off your access from them. Every time you put it into a N64, you can't actually play it unless you pay us money. Again, it's changing the rules here. Totally agree. That's not the point. Just because you don't play something for a long period of time, even 3 years, doesn't mean that you don't own it anymore. Like, I hadn't played Majora's Mask in 3 years. And if I decide to play it again, does that mean I should lose ownership of it? Does that mean I shouldn't have access to it? Yeah. Let's keep going here.
Madness. And a lot of people say if you don't touch your account in 3 years, you don't actually need it. But that's not the point. A lot of companies actually do it. They delete your account for inactivity. However, in this case with PlayStation, you purchased digital goods on their platform, so you paid your earned money. And if I want to be absent for 3 years and then come back to play my favorite game that I paid for, I want to be able to do it, because otherwise, what's the point?
That's right. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of paying all the money? And it'd be one thing if we had purchased all these games knowing that this could happen. But I don't think people did. I don't think we had enough foresight back then to think about or wonder if this was going to happen down the line, that we would suddenly lose access to our favorite game libraries. Like, some of us, I don't have a huge Steam library, but I have a number of games on there that I would always like access to, like KOTOR 1 and 2. I would always love to be able to, go back to those games. But just the idea that I have to make sure to log in and play these games, like, are they going to delete? Is it going to stretch towards games that I haven't played in a long time, or is it just the whole account? There is the slippery slope argument when it comes to a lot of things is something worth considering. It really bothers me when people throw out the slippery slope argument. Like, oh, that doesn't happen. Well, it can. It could. It has happened. But, people have been talking about this sort of thing for years now, and now it's actually happening. And the naysayers back then, I don't know who they were. My foray into gaming news and commenting on gaming culture stuff is still relatively young, so I couldn't name names as to who was saying that this would never happen, who was saying that it would happen. But yeah, this is a little concern here, and would make me want to really focus on platforms like, was it GOG? They give you the physical, not a physical disc image, but like you actually own it on your hardware. Sadly, I think that this is a generational thing. People of my generation who grew up with physical media, and previous generations just before us, they'll care about this, but future generations probably won't. And that's just sad. Sad reality. I think it's a mistake. I think it's bad for the future. Just because it's a sort of like the future generations might not care as much, I don't think that invalidates any kind of commentary on what does this mean for like personal property, or on a wider sense, how society is run. Like, what's to say that this won't branch out into other areas of life, and even physical things. Like, you don't actually rent things anymore. You don't actually buy things anymore. You just rent them, like your couch or something like that. Anyway, that's going down into it. All right, I'm gonna take a quick 2-minute break. My kids are screaming, so I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. All right, let's see what the next story here is that Eamon shared with me. I don't know. Let's see. Metaphysical stuff. Your brain is showing you a version of reality that does not actually exist.
That is such a weird
Joe
statement.
Rogan.
That the universe is not as we perceive it.
One of the things I remember was how Galileo went through this profound spiritual crisis. He was one of the first people to take a telescope and look at the Milky Way, that sort of white haze. And he realized it was made of stars. It was made of millions of stars that you couldn't see with the human eye. And his question was, why did God put stars up there that we can't see? That we need this little glass tube to see. Otherwise, we wouldn't see these. Why did God do that? And you start this journey away from the human consciousness being the center of the universe. And then you get farther and farther away. And, in quantum mechanics and relativity now, is challenging us to say we now have scientific proof, even among skeptical, solid scientists, that space and time is definitely not how we perceive it. We don't know what it is yet, but it's not as simple as the human brain makes it.
Oops. Don't want to click on that too. How we perceive reality. Again, if you've been following me for a while and you've hear me mused upon metaphysical things, you might have some idea where I'm going with this. I said before that I think an MMORPG is a poor description, but the best analogy for life as we know it. And I'm not talking about simulation theory. What I'm talking about is more of the idea that, again, I'm a Christian. I hold to a traditional Christian worldview that God created the universe, and there are certain things that He predestined and certain things that He did not, to account for human free will. I'm not a Calvinist, which is the idea that God preordained everything, much like an author writes a book. I think it's more of He created this system, like a video game, and allows free agents to act within it, and He is a player in the game as well, and enters into it in the way of by means of Jesus Christ as an incarnate human being. So how we perceive and interact with the system, I do think there is stuff behind it that we don't necessarily understand. You could call it the spiritual or the supernatural. It exists kind of outside the system itself. It's not part of the system, but it is kind of outside of it, both affecting it and producing it. The whole idea that God is spaceless, timeless, and immaterial means that whatever God has to be spaceless, timeless, because, sorry, I'm butchering this. It's a Frank Turek saying that he made, because God is spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, because part of something cannot create. Man, I'm totally butchering this. Matter can't create more matter. It has to be something that's not matter. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. But there's, if we're going to relate this to video games too, we as designers and we as creators, humans create things, and there are philosophies out there, Christian philosophies, that because we are created in God's image and God was a creator, that humans naturally want to create things as well, much in the same way that God does. And when think of these massive video games, these massive MMORPGs, where there's Easter eggs in there that very, very few people will see, but they're there, and the designer puts them in just in case they find them. And so, I mean, in this clip we just watched, it was very kind of like that. There's stars out there that we can't see. Why would God do that? Well, maybe someday we will be able to see them. Who knows? But again, that's not really up to us. The fact that they're there means they're there, and we could seek to figure them out, to figure to figure out a way to actually view them or to travel to them someday. Anyway, that's a little metaphysical lesson there. All right, let's see. Some interesting, or perhaps some unique updates to games like FFX. I'm not a big Final Fantasy guy. I have nothing against it, but I'm going to skip that one because I don't know. Also, the upcoming PAL World 1.0 later this week. Well, interesting. Let's see. Let's do this on YouTube. The YouTubes. Eamon is slowly convincing me to play PAL World. Might have to do it, just because of how big it is. Could actually be fun. We'll see. It looks like a fun game. I think it is kind of, they definitely, I feel, I don't know if it's, maybe someone will correct me in a short or not, but I do feel like that they took Pokemon and just altered them a little bit. Because it has a very Pokemon feel to it. I went through a week where I played Monster Trainer games, and a lot of the Monster Trainer games, not a lot, but a handful of them, you could kind of tell that they put effort into distinguishing each of their creatures that they created so that they don't really look like Pokemon, but they're their own thing. They look like their own design. Each one of those, I'm like, hey, I think I've seen that before in Pokemon. I think every single one of those, I was thinking in my head, that looks like a Pokemon that I saw. Like even this one on the screen right now. What's the one? Shinx, the electric, like, cat. This is just like a female version of that. A Sphinx. Looks like a Sphinx. So I don't know. I think it's a little, I want to say dirty, but at the same time, I get. Don't hate me for saying this, but I get why Nintendo might have been a little upset with them for this. I think it was bogus that their actual lawsuit against them was on the game mechanics of throwing a ball to capture a monster. I think they, copyright works different in Japan. I don't know the ins and outs of it, of the laws there, but it is what it is. But yeah, PAL World definitely made a lot of waves. We'll see if it seems like it actually has the gameplay behind it to actually create a solid fan base and last beyond the controversy. So many games get overshadowed by controversy and they don't get actually recognized for what they should get recognized for. This game, unfortunately, right now, to the normie, the gaming normie, is just like, oh, that's the Pokemon copy game. When in reality, I'd love to see more people talk about what you can do in the game and to see that gain more traction. I had to be responsible too to actually dive in and do that. So my commentary on PAL World probably will only subsist of things that when I actually play it, if I actually play it. Like when I played Pragmata, that game deserves to be recognized for its, I would call it innovative gameplay. The third person shooter genre is pretty formulaic right now. All have very similar controls. It plays very similarly to their Resident Evil games, Capcom's Resident Evil games. But the introduction of the hacking and the different systems with that and how that actually works, I think is pretty unique. And it's sad that there wasn't more talk about that, because I thought it was really fun, and I fully intend to go back and play through the harder difficulties once I'm done playing through Resident Evil Requiem. Okay, hang on, let me check my messages here. Make sure my kids aren't bursting down the door. Okay, let's see. Changes made. Interesting changes Nintendo made to Wind Waker. Interesting. Let's see.
Wind Waker is a great game, but there's one part no one seems to like. The Triforce Hunt. Even the developers agree, seeing how they changed it every chance they could. In case you aren't familiar with the Triforce Hunt, here's how it goes. Scattered around the open sea are 8 Triforce charts. Each chart is hidden at one of these 8 locations, being locked behind some kind of puzzle or challenge. Once you manage to find the charts, you can't use them right away. They need to be deciphered first by Tingle for about 400 rupees a pop,
I remember doing
totaling
that.
over 3,000 rupees altogether. From there, you have to figure out which island has the treasure, and then you can finally dredge up each Triforce piece. People mainly complain about 2 things: the huge cost of deciphering and how tedious and repetitive the whole thing is. So when they
Extremely
re-released the
repetitive.
game in HD, they would go on to change this quest quite significantly. Here, there are only 3 charts, with 5 of them being replaced with Triforce pieces, although it feels a bit overkill, since they also
Okay, so I was one of those people. I was young when Wind Waker came out. When Wind Waker came out, I would think I was in high school, and around that time, I was that generation that was really upset at first because we saw that Game World Expo of Link fighting Ganondorf, and it was epic. And then they come out with Wind Waker. Everybody wanted Twilight Princess, but they came out with this toonish Wind Waker, and then people actually played it, and it's like, oh, this is actually a really good game. The Triforce Hunt at the end, though, I remember it being a bit of a slog. I think Nintendo put it in there because they wanted, like many games with a big open world, they want to give you incentives to explore every area of the world. So if you've never played Wind Waker, there's a big open sea, and I forget what the grid is. I think it's like 24 by 24. I can't remember. There's a lot of grid. It's a big grid. And in each grid, there's an island. Some islands are bigger than others, but there's something in each grid square. And I thought that it kind of was like a proto Breath of the Wild. People disagree with me on this, but I think Breath of the Wild's map of it being, it was definitely intentionally sparse. Okay, you can find interviews online of Nintendo discussing about how they intentionally wanted sparseness in the world of Breath of the Wild, so that when you did find something, it made the impact more it made it more impactful. Excuse me. You know, it's kind of like when you play a horror game where you need kind of the ebb and flow of the scares, and you need the tension to build, because if you just keep hitting the player with scare after scare after scare, eventually they get desensitized to it, and it's not fun anymore. It's the same thing with Breath of the Wild. It was the same thing with Wind Waker. People complain that Wind Waker, there's nothing in the Great Sea. I personally disagree. I think it was what they could do at the time. It was a GameCube game, and I really did enjoy going through it. I really enjoyed finding the ghost ship. I liked trying to see what was on each island. I thought it was good for what it was. It's not an MMORPG. You're not meant to play Wind Waker forever. 40 to 60 hours is what you're going to get out of this game if you try to get everything. For a casual player, 20 hours. And that's fine. That's totally fine for a game to be like that. So I do remember, though, this part of the game being a bit of a slog, even as a high schooler, when I played, especially getting the rupees to get Tingle to interpret the map. That was a little annoying, but it did force you, the player, to explore the rest of the map. That's kind of what I feel like they were trying to do. There's, if you, the designer, like, you want the game to incentivize exploration. The player needs to know they're going to be rewarded for their efforts. I think that Nintendo put in the legwork with the design of Wind Waker so that they didn't need this big Triforce hunt at the end. They could have, they could have put it in just as like a condensed version, and they do that because they realize that people are exploring the map on their own without the incentive of the story. So again, it's a give and take. You got to find the right balance for sure. But that's the reason I think that they put it in the game. They wanted to make the quests feel more epic and long and drawn out. But unfortunately, in their first go of it on the GameCube, they really overdid it. And it ended up just feeling like filler, even to young kids playing this game who genuinely overlook these sort of things. Let's keep going.
Added in the Swift Sail, which makes traversing the sea way more manageable. I don't mind this change that much, although I wish they only replaced 4 of the Triforce charts and kept the chart found in the private oasis, seeing how odd it is to find a piece of a magical triangle hiding in some random basement. However, this wasn't the only time they changed the Triforce hunt, since the original Japanese release of this quest was significantly more tedious. The major change here involves Triforce chart number 5. In the English version, you simply head to Needle Rock Isle, take down a golden warship, and salvage the chart. But in the Japanese version, that ship only yields a standard treasure chart. Following that leads you to Shark Island to fish up another chart, which sends you back to Needle Rock Isle for yet another chart. That one then points to Eastern Fairy Island for one more chart, which finally leads to Headstone, where you can actually get the Triforce chart. And of course, it still needs to be deciphered by Tingle. In order to get this one piece, you have to sail to 7 different islands and fish up 6 treasure chests. Now, this is a change I'm glad they made. One thing that could have made this more enjoyable would be having you collect the pieces throughout the story, rather than dumping it on you at the end of the game. However, what if I told you that there is nothing stopping you from collecting the pieces early? If you want to see how that works out, check out my newest video.
Yeah, the end of the game collectathon is a common pattern you'll see, where to kind of get you to revisit areas you've already been. Which is usually good, but you have to be careful with backtracking. I think it was Design Doc, his YouTube channel, where he was talking about backtracking, because if things aren't different when you go back, or if there's some different element that makes the feeling fresh, then again, it won't feel different. Again, it's similar to when you make a different difficulty settings. The more you can make each difficulty tier feel fresh from the previous one, the better the experience they will have. And there's different ways to do that. The laziest way to do this is just simply upping the damage of the enemies and making them more bullet spongy. That's the laziest way to do it. Doesn't make it feel fresh in any way whatsoever, and only people who are seeking for that really hardcore experience will enjoy that. Again, I've praised Resident Evil 7, their Madhouse difficulty, which basically switched up the entire first part of the game. So you had to go through not the Spencer estate, what's the name of the family? The Baker estate, in a different way, and encounter them at different times. That's a good way to do difficulty tiers. It's the same when you backtrack and you do the end game collectathon. There should be different things you encounter when you return to these areas to make everything feel more fresh. And as he pointed out, if you're able to actually get the pieces before that point of the game, that kind of rewards subsequent playthroughs where you, the player, now are like, oh, I know where that Triforce piece is. I know how to get it early. So therefore, I'm going to do that. If you know where it is, you're kind of rewarded for playing it again and kind of optimizing your playthrough. I think Metroid Prime 1, what it had over Metroid Prime 2 was that Metroid Prime 1, you could get the Chozo relics at any point in the game if you had the right material. And Metroid Prime 2, you had to wait for an end game trigger to kind of go back and then get the last keys you needed. Metroid Prime 3 fixed it, and you could get the power cells when you could or when you needed to. But yeah, it's, again, endgame collectathons are tricky. You gotta find some way to keep things fresh and not just throw the player on endless fetch quests. It's even better if it helps advance the story in particular ways, or if it gives you lore bits as you do it. There should be multiple things that happening, like if Link had a flashback or something, or if there was even just a single lore drop with each Triforce piece, that would make it seem more compelling and drive the player to actually want to actually find these pieces. All of them. All right, let's see. depressing news for indie devs. An indie developer claims that over 555,000 players refunded their Steam game after beating it fast enough to qualify for Steam's refund policy. Angry Canadian. How's it going, man? Yes, Wild Bongo has appeared. How's it going, man? Just catching up some gaming news. I was away for 2.5 weeks, and Eamon was generous enough to send me some gaming news that I could go over. I went over the Sony PlayStation controversy of no more physical games, and I'm wondering how that's going to play out. Love to hear your take on it. Or maybe you're doing a video on it too. I'll have to check it out. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so hang on. Eamon shared from Dexetro. An indie developer claims 55,000 players refunded their Steam game after beating it fast enough to qualify for Valve's refund policy. Steam's policy allows players to refund games if they have less than 2 hours. Oof. Okay, now, every now and then, yeah, I was in Italy on a family vacation with my 3 young children and my wife and extended family, and it was awesome. It was really hard though. Yesterday was a nightmare, and I'm very jet lagged right now. So that's why I'm streaming earlier. Okay, back to this thing. Okay. Every now and then I bring up how I have this kind of metric in my mind about if I pay $1 for a game, or if I pay $2 for a DLC, I think, okay, I should at least get about 2 hours of gameplay extended onto my whatever I paid originally. Okay, this is people always kind of misunderstand what I'm saying. Like I'm gonna dock a game or say it's a bad game or pass up a game just because it's short. Resident Evil 2, the remake, many people complained that it was short. It was a short game. They wanted more out of it. Yes, you could spend more time going through it, but on a general playthrough, it is a shorter video game. And that's fine. It's still an incredible game. You should go play it. You should go buy it. You should pay full price for it. But it's a short game. For what you're paying, if you pay full price for it, maybe there should be a bit more there. It should hold your attention for longer. That's all I'm trying to say. It's just something I have. If you design a game that can be beaten in 2 hours, I don't know how much this game was. What is this game? Let's see. Dozens. Oh, did it say in the thing? Did I just miss it? The game is called Paddle Paddle Paddle. Okay, let me see here. Paddle 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 Steam game. How much is it? Okay, so if you paid the full price, which is $5, I would expect that this game will hold my attention for at least 5 hours. Again, it's just a simple metric I have. You don't have to agree with it. Is the game worth $5? Most people decided no, it's not worth $5. I partially again, this is just off the top of my head. I have to think about this more. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but part of me kind of blames the developers for this. If you're going to charge $5 for a game that players are able to quickly beat in 2 hours, maybe your game's a bit too easy. Maybe you didn't have quite the concept that you thought you had. If it is truly fun and they're going to spend more time playing it, if the gameplay loop is fun enough that they're going to want to spend hours and hours playing it, then maybe it's worth the $5. But evidently, and this is unfortunate, evidently a lot of players were able to beat it really quickly. Not just like a select few of hardcore gamers, a lot of players. Maybe it's just a design flaw. And it sucks. It sucks for the indie devs. I like to try and support indie devs when I can, but it's just is what it is. Maybe they should have found a way to kind of pad out their game in a meaningful way that drew players in more. I think if I feel like I'm being too harsh on them, and there's some mixed reviews here. Let's see. Yeah, so like let's look at some of the reviews. Let me see. Not recommended. 1.2 hours in record. Not fun, short, sloppy. Beat under 2 hours and refund if I could, but waited too long. There just isn't enough content. Game looks like a browser game and was made. Yeah, exactly. So this game probably should have been like $2. $2, put enough content in so that they play it past that point where it takes longer for them to reach that point of like, can you refund this game? And there you go. You got a fun $2 game that I think most people will be happy with. If you pay $2 for a game and you get 2 hours out of it, maybe they'll be fine with it. Fun game. Okay, a lot of recommends, so that's good. It shows me that they had something here that people liked. But this one over here, Zorat says, thought it might be funny to make a game. X thought it might be funny to refund an overpriced game. Gamers, $5 for a 1 hour game is like spending $350 for a $70 game. Of course, I'm going to refund this. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Again, I feel bad for the devs that they thought they had a big hit here, but if news gets around that you can play this sort of fun game and beat it in an hour and a half and then refund it, that's what players are going to do. It is what it is. It's just an aspect of gaming that you have to consider. Okay, let's see. Sorry, Zoro Arts. Maybe a release. Do an updated release with more content and more levels and everything like that. Game devs, if you like retro Zelda games, Temple Maker 64, a Kickstarter. Create dungeons, share them, and play them. That sounds pretty cool. Oh, I love it. It's empty. Oh, that's lame. Oh, you got to put something in. Some Fire Temple music. Oh, this is pretty cool. TM64 Deku Tree. Okay. This looks pretty cool. If you like Zelda, specifically Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, you'll probably have some fun with this. And you also like to create things. This is a bit of a niche game going on right here. It looks cool. I think if it takes off, it could be really good for streamers to kind of either make the dungeons or play the dungeons. But as far as people who both have that like love for the old Ocarina of Time and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and like to build things, I think it's it needs to branch out a bit. I think it's going to rely too much on nostalgia, because this looks like assets that kind of like how my complaining about Pal World, you can tell that they just like took Pokemon and tweaked them a little bit. This is the same here. It looks like this is an Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, they made assets that are kind of similar and they tweaked them a bit, and it's really banking on the nostalgia of like wanting to have that past experience again and relive it. And I think it's a little bit too niche. I think if this game is going to really succeed, it needs to branch out. Maybe throw in some Banjo-Kazooie assets or Mario 64 kind of feel to it. Branch out into that golden era of Rare that will not just appeal to Zelda fans, but the Banjo-Kazooie fans, maybe even GoldenEye fans. Like expand it beyond Ocarina of Time, because right now I feel like it's a little bit too niche. But this is pretty cool. I'm interested in it because I love it. Morning, Eamon. Glad you can make it. Sorry I started early, but I've been going through your suggestions here. Yeah, look, he's on TV. This Eamon right there. There he is. That's what he looks like. That's exactly what he looks like. A blue flame with an eyeball. I've seen it. Okay. Again, cool, kind of niche. If I need to see it kind of branch out a bit, but go support it. Looks like it's got a lot of people backing it right now, so it's pretty nice. Okay, give me 1 second. As I said at the beginning of the stream, I started way early. Everyone in my family is jet lagged right now. My kids are up. I just need to go check on them really quickly because I believe my wife is still sleeping. So I'll be right back in 2 minutes. Don't nobody go nowhere. Hang on. Oops, sorry about that, Eamon. I didn't even think about that. Spamming everybody, don't message Eamon. Don't do it. I'll make sure to cut that out in any shorts I do. Eamon's okay, let's see here. Everything's still okay, so all right, so Sony gets caught lying. Oh yeah, this kind of goes back to where we first started. Kickstarter ends for Temple Maker 64, so everybody go check that out. Ends in 2 hours, so if you're up at 6 a.m. on the East Coast, go do that. Eamon, for some reason, the chat doesn't like you. Or my chat is not working anymore. Sorry, looks like my my multi-chat isn't working, so I apologize. Or is it? Weird. All right, let's see here. Let me try this. Hang on 1 second, guys. I think it'll be useful. I'm gonna reboot my chat software because I want people to be able to interact. Yeah, so I'm actually sorry about that. I didn't mean to blast information on there. I apologize, Eamon, my bad. All right, hang on. Let me reboot my multi-chat stuff. All right. Okay, let's see. All right. Okay, so everything should be working now. We shall see. Okay. Let's bring this up here.
So Sony got caught lying to everybody about why they're making the change to digital only.
Oh, is this the guy that is this the guy that did the target, is this the target audience guy? Maybe it is. I don't know. Eamon says, speaking of Kickstarters, though, DecaDuck got a pin extension due to being unable to get funding. They got an extra week. Oh, yeah. Go fund DecaDuck. It's a cool game made by, I think, 1 or 2 developers that you said last week. I think it deserves a shot. No, hang on one second, everybody. Sorry. Again, bird o'clock here. The natives are restless. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to stream. Okay, that's the I'm not the target audience Nintendo IP. Let's see. Though I'm surprised they didn't get funded during Next Fest. It seemed like everyone was talking about and wanting to support it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many games. The market is pretty saturated right now. So I'm not exactly sure what a game needs to do to differentiate itself other than create controversy or something. People just need to I'm sure there's plenty of games out there that are top quality, just no one ever hears about, and it's kind of sad. All right, hang on, let's play this. I'm like, do I got to do the Asmongold thing where I got to go, okay, yeah, so so I don't get like copyright strike? I don't know, but we'll see. Here we go.
Only. The numbers that they've been using seem to be completely made up and exaggerated in order to pretend like they're good guys. Let's talk about it. Sony's reveal that they're going to a digital-only future has not been received well, and in my opinion, the only reason they're doing it is out of greed and wanting to control everything. And now people are seeing right through it because there's
Maybe they're doing it. When you say greed, this is a problem, okay? Getting more money, that's what businesses have to do. Okay? It's not always a bad thing for a company to do. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to do things that make money. Otherwise, they could get sued. Okay, I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm just saying that that's how it works. And if they find that the numbers are that most people are buying digital games rather than physical games, it only makes sense business-wise. Now, where it could come, the greed part could come in, and this would be more convincing, is if the prices of digital games keeps going up, but you're still getting just a digital game. This I feel like, because they're not paying for hardware. I mean, they have to increase their servers, but they're probably cutting some costs with the physical stuff anyway. But I'm just saying it might not just be framing it as greed. I think is only part of the picture. It could be greed. It could also be they're a business. They need to make money. They see that most people are buying digital games, and if they have popular games, they have the weight around to do that. Let's keep going here.
some new information that's come out that's making it very obvious that Sony's just lying. Because according to Sony, the reason they're going to digital only is because of changing trends within gamers. Because gamers
is that not true? Like, I know physical games are still very popular, but the majority of games I buy these days are digital, and I'm I'm a 40-year-old gamer. I'm from that generation. I don't think that this is an untrue statement. Let's see.
Gamers are buying up to 80% of their games digital only, and only 20% of their sales are actually out of physical games. And so, of course, the decision was obvious. Now, look, I'm not going to deny that digital is becoming more and more popular, especially after the pandemic, because it's just a lot easier to do, and you don't have to worry about scalpers. But the numbers that Sony is using are very much in favor of them in order to look like the good guys. But when you really compare the proper numbers, it's not quite as favorable. Because
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Let's see what the proper numbers are.
here's the thing. Sony says that 80% of the sales are digital, which may be very accurate. But the problem is that they're also including games that don't have physical sales. So there's just no way for anybody to buy them physically, and that number skews what they're saying. It's kind of as if McDonald's is trying to prove that their Big Macs are the best because 100% of people who buy Big Macs buy them at McDonald's. Well, yeah, that's true because you can't buy them anywhere else. Just like when you buy a digital game that's only available digitally, of course you're going to buy it digitally because you can't buy it physically. And so some people
I mean, I get his analogy, but I also think that they need to, if a game is only digital and people buy it, I think that's a valid metric to look at. If players are buying it digitally and it's succeeding digitally, why not just sell it digitally? I think players will be less likely to buy a game if it's only physical than if it's only digital. I think that's the idea they're looking at.
who are way smarter than me released some charts with the numbers that they had access to. But now, to be fair, even the chart is skewed in the opposite direction because PlayStation also counts those codes in a box as physical sales. So we don't really have direct numbers to be able to compare. And that's kind of what PlayStation wants, so they can just tell you how it is. We also have to remember that some indie developers may not be interested in making a physical copy, whether it's because they don't have the infrastructure or it would just be too expensive to go through Sony to be able to do that, but they would also impact how these numbers are read. But that's just getting pedantic because obviously the numbers are going to sway back and forth depending on how you analyze the numbers. But what you can't actually dismiss is the fact that Sony just lied because they're counting the numbers in a way to make them look like the good guys, when in reality they're just trying to lie to your face to convince you that what they're doing is for you, even though it's 100% just for them.
I'm not convinced. He's framing it as a lie when in reality it's, I don't know. To him, I think he's framing it in a bit more nefarious way. When I think, again, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt of Sony here. I think they're just trying to communicate that more people are buying digital games. I think that's it, and he's framing it them leaving out his analogy of the Big Mac and the they're including only games that are only digital. To me, that doesn't reach the level of they straight up lied. It's like, yeah, a digital only game that succeeds is worth considering in that metric. And if you have digital only games and then also the 80-20, 80% digital versus 20% physical, he didn't counteract that claim. He just said it was skewed. I'd need to see more data. I need to see him, if he said something like 50% of digital games versus 50% of physical games for this one particular game, then maybe he'd have an argument here. But I think framing it as they're lying, I think, is just kind of inflammatory. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit too favorable towards the giant corporation. But I don't know. This is a trend that's been coming for a while now, and I think if people think that that this was not going to happen, I don't know. I think you were kind of deluding yourselves. Eamon says, I'm on his side, but that's mostly because I don't trust AAA or megacorps, especially considering how they want to move to digital so they can revoke your license whenever they want. Yeah. Oh, yes. Obviously, that's another aspect to it that I really don't like. But that's what I feel like he should have focused on. Not that the fact I want to have, I don't like that they're going only digital. I don't think they should. But I don't think that I guess you could say it's lie by omission. I think that's what he's kind of getting at, which I wish he would have said. but he framed it in a way that said they straight up lied to you, and I not quite. I don't see that. Simple. Thank you, Angry Canadian. Guys, listen. I want to be upset with these mega corporations for reasons that that can sway people. I'm trying to play both devil's advocate, but also at the same time be reasonable when it comes to this thing. The Eamon, your point of revoking license whenever they want to, I think that is a way stronger argument, and it's something that I'm afraid of as well. Not that the fact that he didn't provide any counter evidence to suggest that physical media is more popular than digital media. That's what I need. That's what I need to see. If right now it seems like it's slightly dishonest framing, which I think is not helpful overall. There's plenty of other reasons to be upset at Sony and Nintendo and all these other mega corporations and AAA studios for doing underhanded things that are in fact greed. But to say that the numbers for digital versus physical media don't favor digital media, I think that's a bit of a stretch. He quoted that guy that had the numbers. Wait, which guy? Hang on. Maybe I need to watch it again. FYI, over 50% of Astrobot sales were physical. And there's a reason for that. And I think that this is a good point, Angry Canadian. This is a good point. I think it's because kids' games, kids tend to like to get gifts, physical gifts. My nephews, one is 15 and one is 12, a lot of their Nintendo Switch games are physical because they actually go out to a store and buy a physical copy. And I think it's for some reason kids' games tend to like get physical gifts for birthdays or presents or whatever. And it's only people like me who like to just sit and click and boop, get the game, and then I play it. You know, I have kids now, and I want to get them physical games. And I don't know, maybe it has something to do with the genre. You know, that's a good point, Andrew Canadian. I will concede that to you. So, yeah, there's something about the way he framed it I just didn't like, even though I think you know, you guys, you've listened to me before. You know, I fear. See, we're all kids then. No, that's not what I said. It's not what I said. I didn't say we're all kids. I just think that. Okay, let me ask you this: the majority of your games in Eamon, and you're Canadian, the majority of games in your gaming library, are they physical or digital? Answer that question for me. Right now, I have like 20 N64 games boxed up. I've got 5 Switch games right up here, and maybe like 5 or 6 Nintendo DS games, and some old Game Boy games. But my Steam library is way more digital. So you'd say you're just not the audience for his audience. Yeah, I guess I'm just not the audience for it. So, you know, take whatever I say with a grain of salt. Yeah, I have to look into it more. I have to look into the numbers more. I think that it's not just Sony doing this. They wouldn't do it if they didn't feel like it would make them money, and you could label that as greed. But the bigger issue is the license issue, and that other video that you sent, Eamon, where they can revoke your license, they can close your whole account if you don't play for 3 years. That's ridiculous. That is completely ridiculous. Physical for me by a decent margin, but digital is close because of Steam sales. Yeah, exactly. And if I had maintained all of my physical media over the years, I would have had a huge collection too, and it probably would have been the same, I think. But I was stupid and sold it all to GameStop as a young kid. One of my biggest regrets. They were physical when I had consoles. Moving to Steam, I have mostly digital, but that's really just due to Steam sales and the fact that I couldn't buy 90% of my library physical regardless. Yeah. I think they're just looking at those numbers and they're making a prediction that this will they'll have to decrease their cost of hardware, which is already a stretch right now, because hardware is becoming more and more expensive. And I think they're making a bet that this will at least maintain their current sales. They'll maintain their current sales, and they won't spend any money on hardware. I think that's it in a nutshell. So you can call it greed, probably a little bit of that in there, but will enough players just boycott Sony and cancel their PSN memberships enough to actually affect it? I doubt it, unfortunately. Seek the Sky, how's it going, man? Yeah, chat delay is a bit heavy. Sorry, everyone. I feel bad when I talk on this because I feel like I have an advantage over you guys because I have the 30-second delay and I have the mic. So I feel bad about that. But feel free, if you have your own channels, to rant about my dumb opinions. Or don't even have to mention me. Just be like, some guy on the internet said this stupid opinion about this video, and I think he's wrong, and here's why. So sorry about that. But overall, I fully agree that the move to digital is the whole you'll own nothing and be happy mindset. I think personal property and the respect of personal property is on a more societal level, a cornerstone of Western civilization, respecting people's private property. I think I could take that all the way back to my own religious beliefs. You know, thou shalt not steal, one of the 10 commandments. You respect other people's property. That's it. And this move towards digital seems like one more step closer to removing personal property from people as a means to control. I don't know if Sony wants to have that ability or if they just want to make money. But what is it? Is it Occam's razor, where it's like don't ever attribute malice when you could attribute it to ignorance? You know, who knows what it is right now. Eamon says, "Oh, good idea. I'm gonna totally restart my gaming channel. Rage, foaming in the mouth, rage." Angry Canadian. I'll start a new channel then. See, this guy says, also Deltarune 2 weeks ago. Yes, Deltarune. Go check Deltarune out. I have not yet. Eamon says, that said, I do still upload no commentary gameplay clips, including bug reports and betas. Yes. Eamon, go check out Eamon. Share your clips. Share your gaming channel. Do it. Hanlon's Razor. Thank you, Seek the Sky. What's Occam's Razor? Too many razors. Okay. All right, let's do one more, and then unfortunately I have to call it quits. My kids are banging on the door. Hang on, give me 1 second. I'm gonna tell them I got 5 minutes. 1 second. Okay, I got 5 minutes. Seek This Guy says, Occam's Razor is the likely explanation, is the simplest one. Okay. I also made up Hanlon's Fork, mixing Hanlon's Razor with Morton's Fork. What's Morton's Fork? That sounds interesting. Oof, yeah, there is a bad delay. It's because I didn't know what I was going to do today. I didn't know what game I was going to play, if I was going to play a game at all. So I'm restreaming through the Rumble Studio. So 5 different places are getting this restream, so that's probably why there's a bit of a delay. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll have to call it a day early, just because life. Thank you, Eamon, for doing this, for sending me all these. I appreciate it. Okay, this is Asmongold. Again, Asmongold is a polarizing figure, but try just to focus on what he's saying rather than all the ancillary stuff. That's something I try to do whenever I find someone who I know vehemently disagrees with me on a lot of things. Focus on the argument. That's what we got to do.
If you are in North America, Central America, or South America, all games and other software made available for use with your PS5 system are licensed to you, not sold.
Okay, so this is again a repeat of the previous one. Not sold to you. Okay.
Well, there it is, guys. It's been like that for years, by the way. It has. People don't know that. They don't understand that. The reason why I'm frustrated is that I think people are chasing a placebo effect. I think they're chasing the concept of physical media instead of chasing the idea of digital ownership in totality.
That's a good point. Digital ownership is not something it's not a term that I feel is brought up a lot. Like, can you own something that's digital? I think, is it GOG.com? Is it their website that they push for digital ownership of the games that you buy? So it can be done, and I think that they should get more and more publicity there. Hanlon's Fork. If stupidity results in an outcome so utterly bad that malice could not make it any worse, it should be treated and punished as both stupidity and malice. Is that a real thing? Seek the Sky? I'm gonna remember that. Eamon says, side note, you're gonna play some Palworld with your kids this weekend? Probably not with my kids. Morton's Fork. 2 ostensibly different choices that lead to equally bad outcomes. Ah, interesting. All right, let's go.
I don't like the idea that whenever you buy a digital game,
That's good though. You made it up. That's good. I like it. I like that. Seek the Sky. Or in other words, GOG. Yeah, GOG.com. GOG pushes digital ownership. I think there should be more of it. Sufficiently advanced stupidity is indistinguishable from malice. Ooh, that's deep. I'm gonna have to ponder that thought. All right, I got to finish this before my time runs out.
forfeit consumer rights. I think that on a foundational level, that's the wrong way to look at things. And while I understand why people want physical media, it's undeniable that physical media has lost a lot of prominence over the last 10 years. And I think this got accelerated by COVID. We need to be looking at legislative and legal solutions for these problems rather than complaining to Sony because they're not selling us, Grand Theft Auto on a CD. I see where things are going. More consoles are going to have mandatory hardware checks. More consoles.
Yeah, the mandatory hardware checks are our problem. Like, I'd say anything that has internet connectivity could have a software update. Like, even go, what is it? The Wii U was the first, that generation. Wii U, PS3, even go as far back as that. I mean, Nintendo pretty much all but abandoned the 3DS. And again, the 3DS modders are doing God's work there. Don't give up your 3DS. If you have a 3DS or a DS, hold on to it, because there's people still modding it right now, and it's awesome. Eamon says, yeah, GOG does digital ownership and refuses to allow anti-cheat / theft software like Denuvo. Seek the Sky is creating an overpowered Infinity Gauntlet mashup. Go check it out on Discord. I think he shared it on my Discord as well. So definitely check that out. But yeah, mandatory hardware checks are a thing, and it's unfortunate, but we have to deal with it. So Asmongold is pushing more for legal action, which can be a way of doing it, but ultimately what's going to speak more than legal action is money. If where you put your money is that's where things are going to go. And unfortunately, I don't see anything changing because people are just hang on, buddy, 1 second.
Are going to have.
Sorry, 1 second. No one was here at the beginning of the stream, but I did warn this would happen. I had to cut in and out, okay? All right, let's finish this.
Firmware requirements that the firmware for the console will only allow you to play certain games that were basically on a pre-approved whitelist for the console to run. And I think that's where things are going. I think that you can see a lot of mining canaries with that. You can see that, for example, with manufacturers for cars making heated seats, for example, a subscription. You can say that with, you know, obviously Netflix and everything else turning into a subscription. You can see that with tons of other things. If you are in North America, Central America, or South America, all games and other software may.
Oh, okay. Repeated. Yes, I know. I'm not blaming you guys. I did start early because I was up at 2 a.m. So, yes, I'm not blaming you. I would never do that. I would never blame you guys. It's always my fault. Yeah. That's why I hesitated. I hesitated to start early because I wanted to chat about this. But I think today is going to be the only day with the early stream. I was just up early and I was fixing my desk and getting things ready for the week. So yeah, but so okay, this is an issue, and I do think it's as Asmund brought up at the end, it could bleed into other things. If you want the heated seats in your car, you need a subscription. Everything will be leased, which is a problem, I think, as technology, as things become more and more connected over the internet. I think that this could be a big issue. I know. Hang on 1 second. Man, I get demands from you guys. I get demands from them. I will say hi. Okay, cool. I will say hi to Tim. Tim was in Italy with me. So we got to hang out in person for once. So yeah, okay. I gotta run because they're busting down the door. They want to play with Legos, and I don't have an office, so I need an office. I really need an office. Okay. This week I'm gonna stick to the original schedule, so we'll start at the normal time tomorrow. We'll jump back into Twilight Princess Dusklight, and then we'll also continue with Voidling Bound. Didn't forget about that one. And as the weeks go on, maybe we'll do I'll throw a third game in there. Eamon really wants me to play Power World. He's almost convinced me to play it. Almost. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Angry Canadian, Seek the Sky, Eamon, thanks for hanging out. Again, apologize for starting early, but I needed to. Thanks for sending me all these, Eamon. They're awesome to talk about. It was fun to actually just chat and not actually play a game and try to talk about things. So have a great one, guys. Yeah, we'll see. If I'm feeling good, maybe we'll stream on the weekend. We'll see. But I'll keep you guys updated. Now I'm back. I'm back now. So I'll make sure to send out some notifications on the Discord or my X account or YouTube or whatever. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, everybody, and I will see you all tomorrow.